more than a 42-year-old high school wrestling coach.
Right. No, you're right. And I mean, ostensibly, there's more of a background check for the high school wrestling coach than there is for the karate instructor. But yeah, maybe it's the uniform, the clothes.
I think it is the uniform. I think that if there's one uniform that doesn't inspire confidence, it's high school wrestling.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, there's what? Yeah, the reversible jersey.
It's the singlet.
Oh, you're right.
You don't know the singlet? Yeah, you never wrestled. I wrestled middle school and freshman year of high school. I wore that singlet.
I said I wrestled in gym class, which is probably why I associate it with the reversible.
They let you do
jersey.
Martial arts in gym class in the 80s? They let you beat the shit out of each other in gym class?
Not officially. My ninth grade gym instructor was a ex-Marine. And this was
that's
Catholic
always good.
School. Yeah, Mr. Spurl, and he was just
Spurl.
He was just, constantly
If there's one person
yelling.
I want watching my child, it is a Catholic ex-Marine Spurl.
Yes. No, I remember, when we'd run laps, like on the track, out around the football field, he had a golf cart that he would ride, to be like alongside us, and he'd be yelling.
That's funny.
Right. One day we were out, getting ready to do our laps, and he goes to get his golf cart and just full speed backs into like a pole and like completely tears the back end off of it. And we just all lost it. And he was like furious at us. So that was like, the most hellish day I had in ninth grade. But to make it worse, after he lost his golf cart, he would ride a bike, and he just looked
they didn't give him the golf cart back after that. He lost privileges,
right?
I guess that was really Beaver Creek High couldn't replace a golf cart on the fly.
This was the Catholic high school still.
Oh, okay.
Beaver Creek, yeah, we were lousy with golf carts. But anyway, he would. He was definitely one of these like, old timey man's man. Mm-hmm. And
people said that about me too.
Right. And if, that like static started happening amongst the class, people start pushing each other because it's a bunch of dudes. So of course fights break out.
Oh, it was all boys?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
The gym class was. Yeah.
Wait, you can't have intergender gym class in Catholic school? What?
We didn't. I don't know if you can't, but
Catholic school listeners,
wasn't.
Should I? All right. No, I'm not making this a Spotify question. I have a Spotify question for the UFO story. I'm not making it the Spotify question. Email us, underworldnewstonight@gmail.com. Catholic school listeners, current or former. If you're current, study for math. Former, though. Could you go to intergender gym class? That seems a bit...
this was like the mid to late 80s. So
yeah, but that wasn't the 30s.
No.
The 80s, the 80s weren't like, I mean, my dad grew up in the 80s. They weren't like the fucking like, it wasn't like Leave It to Beaver times.
No, I guess what I'm saying though is for like a Catholic school, maybe that was the norm. I don't know. And maybe now it's like softened, but my point was, anytime like dudes, people started kind of going at it, Mr. Spurl would have to break them up, and if it was up to me, I'd just put you in a boxing ring and you guys would sort this out. And but the principal says we can't do that anymore.
I've already crashed 3 golf carts. They can't entrust me with a boxing ring. But you know what? I've got to tell you, Jason, that is the worst thing that I could picture happening in a Catholic school all-boys gym class. Anyway, welcome to Underworld News Tonight, where we cover the weird, wacky, and wild news of the week. I'm Andrew Michaels. I'm joined, of course, by my always lovely co-host, best known for his controversial historiography, The Lindbergh Baby Deserved It, Jason
Mhm.
Strong.
Yep. Yeah. If you know anything about the Lindberghs,
You
you
know,
might agree.
I think that, honestly, I'm not saying the Lindbergh Baby deserved it, but I'm glad we didn't have a Lindbergh adult.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah. It's our hot Lindbergh take.
We are coming in hot today. Listen. I think that the most controversial topic is wind chill. I'm not touching that one again. But
Right.
otherwise, I think we're good.
That was a real third rail.
We want to apologize once again to the meteorological community. But yeah, covering the weird, wacky, wild news of the
Yep.
week. Jason, I've got a question for you to start off today.
All right.
Have you called your grandma lately?
No, she actually passed away.
Well, you should have called.
Yeah, that's true.
Should have said,
my
"Hey."
chance. Yeah.
Well, I think if you're listening, check in because I've got our first story. It's coming from the Guardian. It's from the Guardian in Italy. Now, Jason, before we even start, I want to say I know it's been normalized to perpetuate negative stereotypes about Italians, to do sort of exaggerated impressions of Italians, and for me, as you guys know, as a proud Jew-Italian, I would not condone that.
No.
Anyway, this story is by Angela Giuffrida out of Rome.
Here we go.
For The Guardian. Gang of alleged armed robbers in their 60s and 70s have been arrested in Italy. 6 were known to Rome's criminal underworld for tenacity in carrying out burglaries at post offices. So like I said, this is coming from The Guardian. Now, the gang's leaders were 70-year-old Italo DeWitt, nicknamed the German. No clue as to where he was from.
Right. Yes. The famous German name, Italo DeWitt.
Italo DeWitt. An Italian first name, I think, but I don't think it even is. Because, American, you don't meet a guy named, American. I mean, I guess you do meet Americans named American, but it's not good. You don't meet a guy named, British. What's a British last name?
Well, I don't know.
I know we have some British listeners.
Penny Farthing.
British Powell. You don't meet a guy named British Cowell. French Macron.
I think in the Barbie movie, right? There was in America. Isn't that the mom's?
Oh, America Ferrara. Yeah, but I don't.
Yeah.
America. Is that her real name? Is her real name America, or is that like a stage name?
I mean, I don't. That's all I've ever.
Sadly, there's no way for any
know.
of us. She was in that show Ugly Betty, which I remember my older cousin watched when I was 10.
Yeah,
and she was very touched.
For it.
Yeah, she was very touched by the story of Ugly Betty. But I don't know anything about Ugly Betty. I don't know anything about America Ferrara, if that's her real name. I'm gonna say her. I'm gonna say her real name is Gorbit. I think she looks like a Gorbit to me. Anyway, the gang's leaders, 70-year-old Italo DeWitt, nicknamed the German. He became renowned in the mid-1990s when some great podcast hosts were born, after a sophisticated heist of a bank near the Spanish Steps, and an unnamed 75-year-old who played the role of Lookout. I would not... Lookout specifically, because that's the job that the two things are vision... mental acuity, the 3 things: vision, mental acuity, reaction time.
Yeah. Right.
Listen, my grandpa, I think, listens to this show. I don't know. I think it's probably below his quality standards. And he's with it. If I was doing a bank heist, I don't know if he's my top choice. And he's the most with it guy in his 70s. He's actually just turned 80. And he's the most with it old guy I know.
Is it? Sorry, I thought you said post office heists.
These were these were post office heists. Oh yeah. So the guy did a bank heist, but this is a post office heist. But either way, what do you steal from a post office? Mail?
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess people send money.
There must be different services they perform in Italy, right?
Maybe.
I hear people talk about like the post office should have a bank or be a bank, like because everyone.
When do you hear talk of the post office should be a fucking bank, Jason? Where?
Well,
where and when?
I guess in
I'm losing my goddamn mind.
no, as kind of a like social justice, because there's
What
post
the
offices
fuck are you-
everywhere. Then everyone would have access to a banking, and it wouldn't necessarily be like a for-profit bank.
I guess like banking being a public institution.
Yeah,
I don't like go to the post office and be like, man, I wish this was how I did my paycheck.
Right.
I stopped.
But some people don't get that option.
I mean, I guess. I don't
know.
Anyway, like, listen.
Yeah, right. The point being, maybe in Italy, a post office has gold bars or, bags of jewelry or something worth stealing.
And I guess, Jason, like you said, it is for social justice, so I can't say it's a stupid fucking idea on this show. That wouldn't work. So, anyway, the gang is allegedly responsible for stealing almost 200,000 euros, which is like,
wow.
I don't know how many dollars. They translate it to pounds, 171,000 pounds.
Okay.
Like $900 million, I think. I don't know. From a post office in the San Giovanni district in May last year, after 2 of the members armed with guns, and this is all from the Guardian article. I'm glad they're clarifying with guns.
Right.
Because I'm glad they didn't have knives, because people can't tell. You got to get really close. Entered through the back door and threatened an employee who was loading. Oh, it's the ATM. They're robbing the ATMs.
Okay, that makes all right.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Got it.
Huh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you just figure. All right, I'm not saying that we should rob banks, right? Or like anywhere. I'm not saying that you and me, Jason Strong, on this podcast, me, Andrew Michaels, and you, Jason Strong, should start a criminal enterprise. But I imagine it would be remarkably easy to scout out a series of businesses where we both live, where ATMs are, and then be like, when do they get restocked? And then swap cities and rob the other ATM and then swap back. Man, someone's actually going to do this shit. Probably in Denver. It's not going to happen where I live. It's going to happen where you live, and then we're both going to get in trouble for this stupid fucking joke I made.
Right. I don't know. I heard it on this podcast.
Yeah. No, I've never robbed an ATM outside of an Italian post office, so I'm just going to clarify that legally on the show.
Yeah, same.
That
seems real time-consuming, though, to figure out, like, when the dude comes.
For 200, for 200K.
Well, sure. No, I guess, how much is in, like, a American ATM?
So,
you think it's that much?
Euros are more than dollars, I think. So, I'm going to look up the euro to dollar.
Right.
And this is, I think, I'm going to look up that. So, it's 1.08. So, like, about 220,000. 220,000 just to figure out the schedule. Like, that's way more than I make in a fucking year. Oh, right.
Right. But I don't know. That seems like a high amount to have in, the shitty ATM at the corner bodega. Right.
A highly trafficked ATM at a post office in Rome. If it's restocked, if it's refilled, they want to refill it as little as possible, because once it's in the ATM, it's safe, right?
Right.
It's very hard to get money out of like an ATM that's closed. Bank robber listeners, underworldnewstonight@gmail.com. Let me know if I'm full of shit. But very hard to get money out of an ATM that's closed. Scout it out. You figure it out. It's highly trafficked. It wouldn't be worth it in Beaver Creek at the diner.
I guess you're right. Right. At the laundromat.
Yeah. But this is honestly pretty genius. Now, like I said, according to La Repubblica, another planned robbery was scuppered. This is British news. They said scuppered because the 66-year-old gang member was having incontinence issues and needed an operation on his prostate.
Oh, man. Man.
I cannot wait until the 2040 season of Underworld News Tonight. We're really getting pretty big. We're trying to do the craziest shit we've ever done. We'll work it into the act. We're going to be doing live shows by then, and I'll just be like, and it'll be like extra for front row seats get pissed on by Jason.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I know a lot of our lady listeners would love it.
All right.
The run of heist were all caught on camera, and they came to an end after the failed burglary of a post office in the Don Bosco area. The 6 were arrested on armed robbery charges. The alleged robbers were reported to be old acquaintances of the police in the Italian capital's criminal underworld. In 1995, an elegantly dressed DeWitt held 15 bank workers hostage after entering a branch of Credito Italiano using a set of copied keys during their lunch break and threatening them at gunpoint. He walked out with 210 million lira.
Oh, we're still doing this? Okay.
Well, that's the end of the story, but yes.
Okay.
So anyway, check on your grandparents, guys.
No.
Check on.
Yeah, that's a good. That's a good idea. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know my grandma Mary.
But
yeah. So I told my Italian grandmother, my grandma Mary, and this is true. I told her I visited her she's in a nursing home, but it's cool because I'm pretty sure there's some sort of family knob connection. We're like, it's a very nice place. And but I told her, she said, "You have a podcast, Andy? Can I listen to it?" And I said, "Grandma, I love you. No, you don't need to hear.
Right.
My dad hears enough about my penis every week."
Yeah.
But Grandma, if you are listening, don't do it. Don't do it. Hang out with Deaf Gloria some more.
Yeah.
That's my grandma's nursing home roommate.
Okay.
Her name's Gloria. I call her Deaf Gloria on account of the being deaf.
No,
which I know is offensive, but she's not going to hear me say it.
No. No, that's cool. How long did the spree? How long were they at this?
The article didn't say, so somebody who did more research for their comedy podcast would know. But let me see if I missed it. It just said it was a series. I think it's mostly that these were like old ex-criminal underworld guys.
Sure.
Or like generally old guys with those sorts of connections. But not necessarily like these weren't like it wasn't that like this was their entry into the crime world, you know?
Oh no, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Like, yeah, this is what they do, you know.
Yeah.
And
if we were to start a crime ring, what do you think we would do?
Man, I've always had a kind of a soft spot in my heart for art heists.
Art heist? Have you read The Art Thief?
No, I think we talked about
I've recommended
this.
I've recommended this book on this show before. Yeah, you should read The Art Thief.
No, I should. I absolutely should.
Art heist, the problem with art heist, Jason, not to spoil The Art Thief, but a lot of that art does end up being destroyed either in the process or afterwards. Right. And it's not like the art thief is very romantic, but he ended up being one of the most destructive forces to the very thing that he loved and obsessed over so much.
Sure.
The cruel, why I had a few tears drop on my flight from Chicago to Champaign, my 45-minute flight.
Yeah.
But I think, here's the thing. I think I could pull off a crypto scheme, but I'd be worried about feeding into anti-Semitic stereotypes.
Yeah. I guess I don't know enough about crypto, I guess, but
you don't have to do a scheme. You don't have to know shit about money to do a money scheme. You just know to know about schemes.
So are you thinking like your sort of standard Ponzi scheme?
Yeah.
Like that's how it would, right.
Yeah, something like that. Have them all hodl, and then I walk away with the bag. That could be good. Right. HODL stands for hold on, don't lose. They hold on to your currency forever.
Right.
You could, there are any number of things. Very easy to walk away from a cryptocurrency. So I'd either do that. Underworld News Tonight listeners, what scheme are you most susceptible to? I think that's going to be our Spotify question of the day. Right. What scheme are you most susceptible to? Let us know so we can plan it out. Yeah, what's your psychological, financial weakness that we can explore? Right. I'm going to ask that as our Spotify question, so please let us know.
Mhm.
And in general, guys, if you listen on Spotify, from now on, every episode, I am going to be saying a Spotify question in the episode. You should answer it on Spotify because it makes the robots happy.
Yep.
And I got to stop giving them these handies.
Yeah. Does it? Sorry. So they've all been arrested. What does it say? Like, what's next? Have they been?
I think it's going
They're all
through
pretty
the
old.
Italian.
What are they going to do? Like, put them away for like 10 years? It'd be a life sentence almost.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, I imagine they're going through the system. They're probably going to put them on some form of like. I don't know how the Italian justice system works. From what I've heard, it's a lot better than ours.
Really?
I would imagine, yes, compared to America. I would rather be in Italian prison than American prison. I'm going to say that right now.
Okay, sure.
Like, American prisons are... I think Americans are not aware of, like, how brutal our prisons are.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that any prison is a place... I know, I'm getting political, and I'm getting genuine, and I need to stop. But
right.
I'm not saying any prison is a place you want to be, but American prisons, for the developed world, and for the world, the allegedly free world, are exceptionally bad.
Yes. You especially do not want to be there.
Yeah, and I imagine if I were to guess, they're probably going to be on some sort of probationary watch or something. But some of these guys do have records, right? So if you're an 80-year-old guy who's, has a record for holding up 15 guys, yeah, they're probably going to be harsh on you, even though you're fucking 80, right? Like,
it would make no. No, you're right. Also, what a cool Netflix series premise would this make? If so there's the
I was just thinking that, yeah,
like old time, old school criminals, and they get picked up finally, but Interpol has a case they can't solve, so they call upon this gang to help them.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking cast of 4 for the Netflix. Here's my casting for the Netflix version. I've already thought it out.
Okay.
Danny DeVito.
Oh yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson.
It's an Italian. Okay.
Well, I think we're Americanizing this.
Okay.
Also, Jason, there are black people in Italy. That's racist.
Well, I know. Yeah.
Come on, Jason.
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman.
Right.
Judi Dench.
That's actually really solid.
Yes,
yeah.
that's my immediate really thought of the cast, because they all fill immediate roles in the team, right? Danny DeVito's your wild card, Samuel L. Jackson's your gunner, Morgan Freeman's your strategist, Judi Dench is your talker, right? You already got that. Right.
Yeah. And what, the Scotland or the Interpol, it would have to be younger.
You need the lead agent, right? You really got to cast that lead agent.
Right. Like Emma Stone maybe.
I don't see Emma Stone in that much of as a cop.
Okay.
I like the idea of it being Sandra Bullock.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Sandra Bullock is pretty solid. Maybe she's a bit, because I think she's in her mid to late 50s now, so maybe you need someone a bit younger just to set up the age contrast a bit more. I do J-Lo. J-Lo's actually a really good actress. I do J-Lo in that role.
Yeah, I can see that.
If we're going for a guy, honestly, I think Will Smith being blacklisted from Hollywood has gone on long enough. I think Will Smith would be good in this, give him more drama, more outside of the box roles.
Sure.
Go with that, or fourth one. Who's going to be the fourth one? If we want to have him just be a total incompetent stooge, comedically, I'd have it be Timothy Chalamet. Because I'd love to see Timothy Chalamet in that sort of befuddled comedy role. I think he'd excel at it in a way that I don't think that studios are letting him.
I was about to say Timothy Chalamet.
Because the best parts of Wonka are when Chalamet is super befuddled. So I think that, you put him in that position, I think it's good. Anyway, Jason, I'd love to talk about our dream Hollywood castings all day.
Yeah.
But I think you have another story to talk about that I don't know if I can cast.
I do. This second story comes to us from WIBX, 950 AM, 106.9 FM. It says...
Depending on where you are, don't just tune into those radio stations where we cannot vouch for what is on those radio stations in your current geographical location. Please note.
Yeah, it could be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably getting the let out though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty sure this is somewhere in New York State. Headline: Hudson Valley resident claims they encountered Sasquatch. This is written. So the byline, it just says Hopkins.
Hopkins.
And the headshot is exactly what you would imagine a white guy in a rural area
just
would
known
look
by
like,
Hopkins.
named Hopkins. Yeah.
So I'm going to say that here's what I'll say about Hopkins. I will trust him to do anything that I pay him for. I will trust Hopkins to do, but I will not trust Hopkins in any other interaction.
He looks like, and again, this is really superficial. It was more interesting to me that it just says Hopkins. You know, it doesn't say like Dan Hopkins.
Yeah, no, I feel like
but he does look like someone who I think probably knows a thing or two about Sasquatches.
That's good. What does that mean? What would you describe a person who knows a thing or two about Sasquatches as looking like? Us?
No. As someone who like someone a little more rural.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I don't think we come across as rural, right?
I think you come across as...
I don't think particularly urban, but...
I think you come across as a lot more rural than I do.
I guess that could be. Yeah, I
think people hear me and they definitely hear the New Jersey. And I don't think that... I think people hear you and they hear Beaver Creek, Ohio, which I think of as rural, but I know that, like, having moved to the Midwest as an adult, I know rural is a pretty sliding scale.
Yeah. If you had lived in Xenia, for example, you would consider Beaver Creek the city.
Yeah. I've heard people call where I live now the city.
Yeah. A woman walking her dog in Carmel claims to have come across something very odd and frightening one February night. She was heard some noises, was scared, ran off, came back, took photos. There's some pretty good sized human tracks in the snow.
Are you saying those are human tracks or Sasquatch tracks?
Oh, I'm sorry. Humanoid foot. Sorry, that's what I meant to say.
Are you seeing a mid-tarsal break?
You know, I looked for that, and of course we'll, share this.
Yes, Instagram,
social media,
Underworld News Tonight, Facebook as well.
The nature of the snow in the pictures, it's not clear.
Okay.
If there is a mid-tarsal break.
Yes, of course, for our listeners who might be new, the mid-tarsal break in the Bigfoot print. This is a print in this tour. This is how would you describe the mid-tarsal break?
Well, it pertains to the foot.
It's towards the center of the
sole.
Foot.
Yeah.
This is a pretty... This is like what Bigfoot experts say, like, this is when you know it's a Sasquatch print. If you don't see the mid-tarsal break, they don't... It's something else. Yeah. That is the opinion of the real, genuine, trustworthy experts who look at Sasquatch every day.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this isn't us speculating.
Yes, this is science, guys.
This is state-of-the-art Bigfoot.
Everything that we say on this show is 100% true, and you don't need to look it up further.
Right. Yeah, so it goes on to illustrate how there's been a uptick in Sasquatch sightings in New York State. According to a study from the Travel Channel, who else would you trust to study such a thing?
The Travel Channel to study the part of New York that people don't like to travel to.
Right. Yes. In 2009, New York State ranked as fifth for Bigfoot sightings. The most recently, it's actually 13th, behind Pennsylvania. So a fair amount of Sasquatch sightings in New York State. Breaks it down county by county. This doesn't mean anything to me because I don't know my New York.
My New York people are from New York City. Like my family are New York City people, right? And then like we moved to Jersey. Like so, the rest of New York is like, I know my dad went to RPI, so he went to college in Troy. I went to theater camp in Oswego, and I've been to Syracuse.
Yeah. I've been to Syracuse.
Yeah. Syracuse is a weird town. That's a weird town. Like, it's a weird... Did you get that feeling just walking around Syracuse? It's a weird, right? It's fucking weird.
I do. I mean, this was, over 20 years ago, but yeah, I do, for whatever reason, like, because it was when we went to Woodstock 99. So we drove through it, went to Woodstock for a day and then drove back to it. And yes, I do remember, for whatever reason, thinking like,
you know how I would describe it?
Weird town.
You know how, this is maybe a little dramatic. Have you ever seen tourism pictures of North Korea, of like Pyongyang and stuff?
Yeah. Of course I have.
It's this very eerie, like, you see these pictures and like there's nobody on the road. And Syracuse feels like a city, like a town that was built up to be like a small city, like a Worcester, Massachusetts, or a, or like not like a big city, like a Worcester, or like even like a Buffalo, like, or something like that, right?
Sure. Right.
Or like and it never became that. It stayed a small town. So you have this like town that feels like it's not even supposed to be a big city, because you feel almost more comfortable if it felt like it was supposed to be a big city. It just feels like it's supposed to be 2 levels bigger than it is, or 3 levels bigger than it is, and it makes you so fucking uncomfortable. I was there 15 years ago, so not even like we were there pretty close in time to each other, I guess, relatively, and like I got the same exact fucking vibe. I guess 13 years ago, not 15, but yeah.
Isn't it? It's mostly, isn't it a college town?
It's a college town. Yeah, I was there in the summer too, so that's also part of it as well, I'm sure.
Right.
But even like, I live in a college town, and like in the summer, it doesn't feel like Syracuse felt.
Right. But I was going to say, what's weird about it is it's like legitimate, like it's on the interstate. Not, like the interstate passes through it, which at least in my experience, like that's weird for a college town. Like college towns are usually a little more like,
they're a bit more
a little bit more out of the way,
because I think Syracuse was like supposed to be like more of like a hub of like when people had to go from town to town and place to place. Because think about like horseback times or like train time, like it'd take a while to get across New York State, right? So like Syracuse was supposed to be a bigger thing, and now it's a college town.
Yes,
that I don't think about as much though, because to be honest, like in New Jersey, you do see that. Like, I mean, like Ramapo, like you're on the highway, you see these college towns left and right. Like, it's not
okay.
Yeah, I think that in places that it's more like established or wealthier or whatever, but like, I can think of a few places that like, I could just make a turn off the interstate and I'm in a college,
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, or it could, I don't know its history at all, but I know that, especially in the Midwest, but, even headed towards the East Coast, there's like, towns that, were the center of the economy and culture, right? In like the 1850s, and were like huge deals, and, people wanted to live there. And now are like, you can't imagine why someone would choose to like Dayton, Ohio, which is, the next city, closest city to like where I grew up, at one point was like a big, like it was a much bigger deal. And by the time I had lived there, like that outside of the Air Force Base, there wasn't any reason to go there.
Yeah.
Like
a lot
whatever
of these
industry
towns that people
gone.
Across the country know the name of, but you don't know why. Like I knew about Dayton, Ohio growing up in New Jersey. Why?
Right.
But also, like, I mean, the depressing thing, like there were towns that were the center of the universe in the 1970s that are fucking Baltimore, Detroit, like not like gone, like just fucking abandoned by the resources that are supposed to keep them afloat when the economy fucking changes. Now I gotta stop. Sorry, this is funny boy comedy persona mode. I don't care about real world problems anymore. Jason, continue about Sasquatch.
Okay. Yeah. Now that we got our Syracuse discussion out of the way.
Exactly. The spookiest thing of all.
Right. County by county breakdown. Warren County leads the state with 13 Bigfoot sightings. Dutchess County had 5.
That makes sense. I heard the Duchess was a sexy lady.
Mm-hmm. Putnam County.
Sorry, British
Again,
listeners.
here's Putnam County. Another sighting detailed there over the past week or so. Woman stepped outside with her dogs. The dog froze, tucked his tail, started whining. The woman heard breaking branches in the woods, quickly went back into the house. Following morning, went out to investigate. Yeah, again, here's footprints in the snow, broken shrubbery. I think we might have even mentioned this before, but bundles of sticks.
Yeah, well, we talked about that when
been,
Natalie was
collected.
on the show. When Natalie was on the show, which we talked about she's also from that area of the country the country as well. Check out the episode "Chivalry Isn't Dead" if you're listening now and you haven't heard that. We talked about a Sasquatch story, and this is something that's a habit of them. We've talked about this a few times before. And that's the thing that I always get interested in. I guess is like, look, we've I think taken a pretty neutral perspective on a lot of this stuff, but a lot of these accounts, as we hear more and more and more of them, they do line up a lot more than I initially thought they would from the outset of this project of the podcast. Like, I don't know what you think, but.
Yeah, like, right. They're pretty consistent. But to my mind, that's what makes me a little like skeptical, because they are so geographically dispersed that I don't know. Why are they all so similar? Like,
yeah,
am I making any sense? Like, shouldn't a Sasquatch in Oregon have like a different fur coloration or thickness versus one?
I think that there are a few
New
things
York?
to keep in mind, though. I mean, the first that eyewitness accounts are not totally reliable when you get to things like fur density, right? Like, and I know that's just like you giving a hypothetical example, but like there are things that aren't reliable, but also like, I mean, think about all the studies that are still happening into primate cognition and behavior, right? I mean, because we have our chats outside of this, my recent primate hyperfixation on chimps and orangutans and bonobos. By the way, common misconnect. The Gombe chimpanzee.
The Gombe chimpanzee.
Look that shit up if you want to be disturbed but also amazed. And I'm sure I'll talk a lot more about all of the shit that I've learned in my little obsessive rabbit hole over the last few weeks. But like, we don't know really very much about primate behavior at all. We don't know about their theory of mind. We don't know about we don't know. One thing that's interesting is, like the reputation of chimps and bonobos, right? Of chimps being the very violent, aggressive species, obviously, which they are, and bonobos being much more peaceful. And obviously, one thing that a lot of people don't know is chimps and bonobos are so closely related that that scientists used to not think of them as different species, but as like kind of a subspecies, right? But now that they decided recently as different species, people still don't know if that difference is entirely biological or cultural or how much of a combination of the two it is. People don't know if, because there's not ethical, certainly not ethical to raise a bonobo baby with chimps, right? Certainly not fucking ethical. And probably not ethical to raise a chimp baby with bonobos either. Like, a bonobo baby with chimps is a horrifying scenario, right? Because we know, like, chimps. I would rather be in a room with a gorilla than a chimp. Even a chimp with a bonobo, that's also like not ethical. So like, as far as like, these behavioral scenarios are similar. Well, if there is, a genus or whatever of these large bipedal apes that we don't know about, even if it was just like a North American orangutan variant species that somehow exists, right? Even if these were just escaped orangutans from zoos, which is something that I've also considered as a Sasquatch possibility, because orangutans are fucking incredible animals. If that's the case, we know so fucking little that any of these similarities, like, that doesn't, like, what makes it feel more believable to me is that we know that, like, people are the same everywhere in a lot of ways, right? I mean, I think we're both pretty traveled people, and people are the same everywhere. Americans are worse, but people are the same everywhere.
Right. I guess I was seeing it more as like a form of fauna that is very like geographically isolated. I mean, there's some things now that are everywhere, right? Like raccoons.
Well, I think
and
that
squirrels,
gets into the.
But like a bear it's a different kind of bear that you're going to see in upstate New York versus what you're going to see in, the Northern Rocky Mountains or the
but
Pacific
that's what I'm saying though.
Northwest.
Is like, I look at a picture of a chimp and bonobo, right? I can't tell the
Mhm.
fucking difference between a picture of a chimp and a picture of a bonobo, right?
Sure. Oh, okay.
Unless right, like
Yeah,
maybe you can if you're more right, like.
No, I can't.
So like you're asking people who are shocked, who are looking at this thing, to describe it.
Mhm.
I'm not looking at like, does this seem like the same species or not? Because also none of these descriptions eliminate the subspecies idea. We also have talked about other Bigfoot species, the Yowie, the Yeti, all these different types. I mean, this is something that UNT listeners definitely know about as well. But like, I think that when it comes to these descriptions, what I'm really looking at is like the behavior, the experience, the similarities.
Yeah.
And that's also why I've started to find the interdimensional hypothesis that we talked about last week with Zen somewhat compelling. That if it is the case that UFO, many cryptid, and ghost phenomena are all sort of this interdimensional spillover, I think that would make a lot of sense, other than the physical footprints, which do seem to throw somewhat of a monkey wrench in that.
Yeah, and I wonder like what was the like first Bigfoot sighting? Like when was that? Where was that? Because this has been my whole life that Bigfoot was out there somewhere, and anywhere that was at all remote wilderness or remote wooded, at least temperate wilderness. Like you don't hear about Bigfoot in the desert, so, in the
you don't hear about
Mojave
Bigfoot in the city either. That would be a fun movie,
right?
Though. Bigfoot in the city.
Didn't they do that in was it Harry and the Hendersons? I don't know.
It's been they did Harry and the Henderson. Harry and the Henderson's a good movie. He wasn't really in the city, but that is a good movie.
Yeah. Now I lost my train of thought. I guess you don't
hear about Bigfoot outside of these rural areas in North America.
Right.
You don't hear about Sasquatch outside of these rural areas in North America because again, there's the Yowie, there's the Yeti. These are totally different things.
Right.
And there are like, I mean, we should look into the original some of the original Sasquatch sightings. And I think I'm going to say I don't know when it's going to be, but I know we are going to do another cryptid special this year. I know you guys love the cryptid special. We loved making the cryptid special, so we're going to do another one this year. And I think that could be
looking into.
I think one of us should definitely talk about the history of that. So yeah, for sure.
Cool. But yeah, no, interesting Bigfoot news again. I guess it's a little weird to me that we have a lot of photos of footprints in the snow here, but no photos of the supposed creature.
Well, yeah, I mean, but this is once again. I mean, we heard this from the Bayside, the Bayside incident when we talked about this was the for those of you guys who didn't hear that episode, this was their alien sighting at the Bayside Mall in Miami. An eyewitness, an alleged eyewitness, very rightfully pointed out is you see something like that, your instinct not to film, and especially if you're with your dog.
I guess you're true.
We're both pet people.
You're right.
Like,
I guess you're
my
right.
instincts to protect Lentil.
Yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense, but I just feel like there's kind of for all these sightings that we're seeing around the country, like there's kind of a dearth of like useful photographs or video. Like the one there was the photograph. You were right, but it's always like video. from such a faraway distance.
Jason, your CIA shill. Fucking, you're grasping at straws once again, and it's showing. No, because Jason, I'm gonna be real with you. The Sasquatch is right in front of you. Right in front of you. It can see you. If you can see it at that close, it is at a distance that if you can see it, it can probably see you, right? Unless they have bad eyesight, and we don't know anything about that, right? Let's say, sorry, I knocked over my camera. All right, we're good. Let's say they have good eyesight, Jason. Let's say they have good eyesight. Are you taking out your phone to film, or are you gonna let it go?
I guess as someone who entirely by accident on several occasions found himself maybe quite a bit closer to wild animals than is recommended. Like I was hiking and rounded a corner and there was literally like a moose 5 feet in front of me.
That is the worst animal to be anywhere near. Yeah.
Same thing like with a bison at Yellowstone National Park.
I've never even thought about that.
I've like backed away,
yes,
quietly, and
back away.
But I had the presence of mind to like, I'm gonna go ahead and take a picture.
I'm not taking a fucking picture of a moose. Of a fucking moose.
It's not a Sasquatch. I mean, yeah, I guess my feelings might be different.
No, but Jason, I just want to back up for a second. You're insane for doing that with a fucking moose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't do that with a moose.
No, you're not wrong.
Do not do that with a moose because you can't buy our merch if you get killed by a moose.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. I said it was...
Buy the water bottle.
Yeah. Yeah. It would probably survive a moose attack. The water bottle.
We'll survive a moose attack?
No, not me.
I think...
Almost certainly not.
I might be too short. I think I might be able to survive a moose attack by just falling on my belly and rolling around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you're supposed to do.
I think just stay away because you can see. I mean, like, so I know if you're in your car, it's like drive away as fast as you can, like, or hit the tree, or like literally you should drive into a tree. Like, do not under any circumstances hit a moose with your car. You're gonna die.
Yeah.
For a person, I mean, if they. So I've only even seen a moose once, which is I was on a train and I looked out the window of this train and I saw a moose. And I'm a Jersey guy. I'd never seen a moose in my life. I thought aliens were invading. And it took me a good, probably like 45 seconds to calm down. Because they're big and fucking horrifying.
And
they are not kind.
Pretty ugly, I think. Like, not one of your more attractive animals.
Exactly. I think a moose is also in that category of chimp. Like, I'd rather be in a room with a gorilla because I think I know how to deal with a gorilla, which is like just curl up in a ball, face away, and they're gonna get annoyed and not want to deal with you and just walk away. And just don't look at it and do this.
And again, in my defense, like I kind of snuck up on him. Like I didn't see him in the distance. I was on a hiking trail that kind of went up a little rise and then made a turn behind like a stand of trees. And so as soon as I turned around those trees, there he was. I didn't, it's not like I deliberately approached him. Like I have never, well, I can't say never. I don't do that, but I have, like I said, round a corner and like, oh crap, there's an elk. God. Or we would get, when I lived in the mountain town here, I'd open my garage door and like, oh, there's a bear across the street.
Holy shit. I mean, I've seen I've seen bears before. Because like the part of New Jersey I grew up in did have bears.
Yeah.
So that's like something that I'd seen either like while on a trail or just like driving around. Like, I'm not, unless you see a grizzly, I'm not worried about that, or a polar bear. Right. But like, if you see a polar bear, you are fucked. But
right. Yeah. Yeah. Now I forget why we're even talking. Oh, but yeah, as far as the photo, yeah, I mean, I see both sides. I guess I think it's more a matter of like if you're going by the odds, right? Like odds are someone would think, oh crap, oh look at the Sasquatch, I'm gonna get my phone out.
I think that when you see something that isn't real, I mean, like we don't ask this question of people who see, like, I mean, we see the ghost pictures and they're often the fake ones, but like we don't really ask people who see ghosts like why they didn't film it, And I think it's a weird thing that gets applied more specifically to these cryptid scenarios, but that feels like the one you're least likely to film, because if I see a strange, large, and unfamiliar, possibly aggressive animal near me, let alone with my dog, but just near me, because also, I'm going to use the gorilla example because I feel like being killed by a Bigfoot is about like being killed by a gorilla, right? Like, or maybe even an orangutan. But like, let's say the word like, it's not. They don't just like snap your neck and you're dead, right?
Right.
So like,
they fling you around and stomp on you and
rip your dick off. Like you don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
They rip your dick off again. You don't want to deal with getting your dick ripped off.
Twice. Yeah.
Thrice, twice, thrice, quatrice, whatever. Keep my penis in my jeans from under510.com. That's all I ask. But
I guess
that's why I wouldn't film it. I am making myself little and walking away. Reaching my hand into my pocket and pulling out an unfamiliar object is the last fucking thing I want to do.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense.
And that's survival.
Like I would figure somebody, or just
maybe somebody did and they're fucking dead.
That could be,
right?
And I guess to your point, and then we should probably move on. To your point about like people that claim to see ghosts aren't giving this shit about where's the photos. I guess with ghosts, I feel like those are typically indoors. They're in your house. You're staying in a hotel. Like that makes more sense to me that you may not even have your phone, like the camera phone on you. Whereas when you're out in the wilderness, like you're out going for a hike, well, I would hope you would have your phone. Like what if something happened? It just seems more likely that
I guess they have their phone.
Carry it with you when you're like outside. I know that
this is maybe just one of those things where we just don't see eye to eye because your boss won't let you. But I do think that like in general, nobody wants to do anything unexpected near an unfamiliar animal or being that they don't know what it is and how aggressive it is, and especially a primate. And we know what they can do. I'm not taking out my fucking phone. Absolutely not. Even if I see like a weird fucking dog walking around, like I don't take out my phone because I'm focused on what's this weird dog that's off leash gonna do, right? Like, I get what you're saying. Yeah, but that's just me. Anyway, guys, we are going to take a quick break because the two hosts of this show need to piss sometimes. So we're gonna do that, and then we will be right back. We were all talking about happy stuff while you guys were not hearing us take a break, and we are back now with more stories to cover. Jason, we've talked quite a bit about UAPs and UFOs, and I think we've talked about the thing that I've said multiple times. I am worried about more than UFOs.
Right.
USOs, underwater, submerged or submersible objects. For those who are not familiar, these would either be alien objects that have been set up in our oceans, have crash landed in our oceans, maybe parallel life that evolved in the oceans. This is a kind of a big thing within the field of ufology that gets talked about a number of times. And my position has always been, look, if true, an underwater alien has a lot more of a reason to fucking hate us than a space alien. Now, this is a story from Curiosmos, a website that I've never been on before now, but I will tell you this. As an experience of being on the website, even on mobile, truly one of the worst sites of all time. 3 ads before I see the article.
Nice.
Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
Now, the question that this article asks is by Ivan Petrochevic. Is there a submerged UFO base off the coast of California? Now, this is actually rumors that have been around for a long time that the article sort of summarizes. And guys, I'm going to be honest, fairly slow UFO week, so I thought this would be fun to cover. So This is this was originally found on Google Earth in 2014, and it's right off the coast of Malibu, which, you know, obviously a very sort of idyllic location, very well known as a sort of Southern California party destination. But there's a Google Maps find from 2014. One thing stood out off of the coast, and it was an alleged underwater base. At least according to some, you know, experts on this sort of a thing. It's about 6 miles off the Malibu coast. It's been described as an oval-shaped and flat-top structure. Again, pictures on the Instagram and Facebook. Oval-shaped, flat-top, and quote-unquote, almost too perfect, much like this show. Surrounded by what appeared to be sturdy pillars, plunging deep into the ocean bed.
Does it give any indication of how large the structure is?
The article itself does not seem to give any form of indication.
Well, presumably it would be obvious on Google Earth.
Yeah, let me go ahead and see.
But yeah, I haven't.
Let me go ahead and see if I can pull up a scaled picture and see. Yeah, it doesn't quite say. I mean, but I'm looking at the picture right now. It's not to scale that I could confidently say the distance, but I'm looking at a more clear picture than what's offered in the article. And like, I mean, it doesn't look like a normal thing. But again, I'm not like a meteorologist. I'm not a geologist. A lot of things don't look normal that are perfectly fucking normal that I don't know shit about. This is just a podcast where I assert things that I don't know anything about.
Yes. Yeah.
It's situated approximately 6 miles off the Malibu coast. And the article notes the region has long been a hotspot for unusual sightings. Locals and tourists have frequently reported unexplained lights and objects skimming the water's surface. I've not seen any like direct reports of this just through like a cursory search, but this is originally a 2014 find that did get some level of coverage back then, and there's even some coverage of it dating back to the mid-2000s that I'm going to talk a little bit more about that kind of feeds into my USO anxiety. So I think that like if this specific sort of analysis of it has been around for so long, it makes sense that previous reports would show up less frequently on a Google search.
Absolutely.
Now, the most prominent theory, and I've talked about this a few times, is trans-medium travel. That is, these unidentified objects possess the ability to navigate both the water and air effortlessly. That could be beings from another world, another dimension, or beings that evolved in the ocean's depths. Again, because we really don't know what's down there.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the thing that I've kind of, said a few times before.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's quite concerning. I mean, especially like, if you look at a lot of the more compelling UFO cases, and I'm thinking in particular the sort of infamous Tic Tac video that we've talked about a few times on this show. Right. These are coastal sightings.
No, you're right.
Right? I mean, not every sighting is a coastal sighting, but a lot of the more compelling ones are. Not everyone still.
Sure.
And of course, like, you don't discount the possibility of multiple means of alien travel, multiple alien civilizations, and underwater civilization. And like, not every sighting needs to be the same thing, but
they could all be different.
This definitely seems to be a category, specifically with like they're doing weird shit that I don't know what the fuck is going on. So the article ends that while the scientific community remains divided, which is true because scientists say no, but I say yes. Some researchers, like me, lean towards the possibility that these phenomena are not mere coincidences or natural occurrences. They suggest that these frequent, unexplained sightings, coupled with the presence of anomalous undersea structure, could indeed point towards an extraterrestrial or, subaquatic, intelligent submarine base.
Sure.
This theory is bolstered by the advanced features observed in the structure, which seem beyond our current human architectural capabilities, especially considering its deep sea location. And I'll tell you, Jason, I looked at this structure. I couldn't fucking build it.
No. Yeah, I think I'd be hard pressed to build a structure.
So
6 miles off the coast of
yeah, Jason.
Malibu?
So what do your handlers at Langley have to say about that? Or will Daddy Dulles give you a spanking?
Man, I can only hope. No, that's interesting. Yeah, it is cool that the I mean, obviously UFOs as a phenomenon, UAPs now, that's been since what, the 40s, I want to say. I think
Roswell,
that was
1948. Yes.
Yeah. I think the first sighting is even a few years before that.
Well, there have been sightings. I mean, if you really want to look back, there have been sightings in Japan, I believe, in the 19th century, and there was actually a USO related sighting too.
Okay.
I actually wish I came more prepared to talk about that, but there are sightings that are, well before any sort of aircraft could possibly be being tested.
Right. Okay. Well, and my point was more the USO under or unidentified submersible object. My point was going to be that that's relatively recent, but as you're saying, that actually dates back to the 1800s in Japan.
We should talk about the pre-flight UFO sightings. Might be a good special topic for another episode. Let us know if you guys think it would be. Because there have been a lot of really cool cases. I mean, there's been that. There were a couple of alleged alien kids that were in England in the Middle Ages. And it was these little green kids who said they came from a land with no sun and only knew to try to eat raw beans and weird shit, So
Yeah, I had no idea. No, that would be super interesting. Yeah. No, that's cool. That's just I mean, that's the greater Los Angeles area, so the second most populous urban location in the United States.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not, if assuming that whoever these USO entities are trying to keep a low profile. I don't know that I would necessarily build a structure 6 miles off the coast of the second most populous city on the continent.
Maybe this is a little bit deep. Maybe the hardest thing for people in Los Angeles to do is look at anybody other than themselves. Think about that.
Oh man!
But you see these UFOs. That's
actually a really good point.
You see these UFOs in LA. You don't see them in New York. You know why?
Why is that?
It's a tough town. Not everyone can handle it.
Yeah. They call it the Big Apple because everyone wants to
take a bite, but they just can't handle the bite.
Not everyone can.
Sometimes they chip a tooth. Sometimes they had a pre-existing cavity.
Kind of a fucked up apple, then, I would think.
Sometimes they say this isn't an apple. It's the big apple that comes out of the hat at Citi Field when you watch a Met game and they hit a home run, but you don't see it very often because they're the Mets.
No, that's cool. Yeah, we'll have to keep this in mind and see if anything comes up that is related to it, or
we will.
Yeah, I'm super interested in this USO.
Yeah, the USO thing has always been I said.
I think that's really cool.
My opinion has always been if they're from space and they want to wipe us out, they can. But a USO has anything from underwater has a reason, and that's always been sort of where I'm at, right? So I think it is definitely something that does warrant further coverage.
Yeah.
But what warrants further coverage right now is Jason's story to close us out.
Yeah. So our final story of this week comes to us from me with filling in the gaps with a Denver Post article as well as Wikipedia. It's when we're recording this now, it's the last full weekend in February.
Yes.
The second weekend in March every year here in the Denver area, there's a an event that's held up in the mountains, the mountain town of Nederland.
Nederland, okay.
Up until very recently. Frozen Dead Guy days.
Oh. Does it start when you find the first one?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah. So I've already found 3 this year.
You just had to go into the walk-in at your old job.
Right. Mm-hmm. No, what the titular Frozen Dead Guy, this is actually this story is like super interesting and weird. It's all over the place. When I first moved here and heard about this festival, my assumption was, back in the gold rush days, silver rush here, a miner fell through the ice and froze, and right, like it sounded like plausible and a very like historic sort of almost like mythological at this point, but it's actually much more recent. So we're going to go to the start of the story before we even get to Nederland, Colorado. Begins in Norway.
All right.
In 1989. In 1989, a guy named, and I'm going to butcher my Norwegian pronunciation.
I'm sure it'll be great.
Aren't what they should be. A dude named Trygve Bauge.
I'm sorry, Jay. You speak Norwegian like a fucking peasant sheep herder. Holy shit.
I was going to say like an American.
So fucking embarrassed. Honestly, Jason, if I showed up with that level of shit Norwegian on a podcast, like I would not show my face in public again. Because they could picture it. It was that bad.
Well, I'm afraid it's not going to get much better because there's a few more Norwegian names I'm going to have to bludgeon my way through. Anyway, Mr. This Trygve Bauge, coming from Norway, brought the corpse of his recently deceased grandfather named Bredo Morstol. He was the body preserved in dry ice was headed to a cryonics facility outside of Oakland, California, where the body
so that must have been really recent. Because when did cryonics start? Like yesterday?
No, I think it was. I think the idea was floated in the like early 70s.
I know. Well, it was around by the time Walt Disney died, right? Because he got frozen.
Did he? I thought that was kind of an urban legend.
Oh, is that not true?
I mean, people do. I have no idea. I know there's like 450 something people that have chosen like to be frozen. The idea being that, they're getting towards the end of their natural lifespan, whether they have a disease, whether they're old.
Can I just say, if you're working in Walt Disney's cryo lab right now, any listeners who work in Walt Disney's cryo lab, I assume we have a few. Play him the pod. I think I could turn him around on Jews.
I think now would be the time to do it, given that he would have been frozen and unconscious for the better part of what, 50 years? I don't know. When did he
die?
60.
I think. Yeah, I think he died in 60.
I have no idea.
I think he died like right before Disney World opened. I think it's like because he had Disneyland and they was going to open like the thing that was like his real vision of it. People present it as a sad thing, but it's like he was an asshole who got everything he wanted his whole life, so he was always going to die before the next thing he wanted.
Right. Yeah, they're all, yes.
I guess who got everything he wanted his whole adult life after he drew his first good mouse.
Yeah. It was okay.
Yeah.
It was a decent mouse, but no, anyway, just generally speaking, yes. I think cryonics like kind of hit its stride in the 80s, because that's when I feel like I heard about it the most. But again, the idea being rather than, when you die, just being cremated or thrown in the ground, your body's preserved, you're frozen.
Right.
With the understanding that at some point in the future, there'll be some means to bring you back.
Okay.
Whether it's, yeah. And so, if you died because of a disease, hopefully they can cure the disease then. But the idea roughly is that, rather than like giving up, you're just,
so what
your body will be
happens when a
frozen
cryonics facility closes? Is it just like, sorry, never mind? Do they have to transfer those bodies, or do they just like have to contact the loved ones and be like, hey, you got to figure this shit out yourselves?
So, that it's a little beyond the scope of,
Something's beyond the scope of our show.
Story, but I think generally speaking, yes, like it's still human remains, and those have to be dealt with. Like there are, as we discussed last episode, laws around that. There are cases of the bodies not being properly maintained, and so when someone goes to like check on them, it's just a barrel full of goo, like the body's completely decomposed. So it's by no means is it foolproof. And it's also important, I think, to point out that like at this point we have no idea how to bring frozen bodies back from the dead, as you probably have noticed.
I don't see a lot. I haven't met
there's
Walt Disney yet.
Right. So there's not, and I don't know how much like effort is seriously being put into that.
Can I just say this though?
Might be kind of a flawed premise.
Can I just say this though? I'm going to say this, and this is actually a legally binding thing. I'm going to say on this show right now. If somebody brings Walt Disney back in my lifetime, I will send him a free Underworld News Tonight t-shirt.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, no, he gets a free shirt for sure. Again, going to turn him around on that Jew thing.
I stand with that. Yeah. So going back to our old deceased grandfather Bretto. So he was his body he was at a cryonics facility in Oakland, California, 1993. Trygve and his mother Aud took Bretto's body to the little town of Nederland, Colorado, with the idea that they were going to build a smaller cryogenic, I don't want to say facility, cryogenic.
You could say ice cream
structure
truck.
To maintain him. Yeah. It's a little closer. You're a little closer with that than you realize.
Oh, fuck.
So for context, Nederland, Colorado, it's about 30 miles northwest of Denver. So you're getting at elevation. You're up in the mountains. It's a pretty small little town. I would describe it as funky, like it has kind of a hippie-ish sort of vibe to it. Of course,
funky in the Denver suburbs is what they call it, a town with 3 Italian people.
Right. It's too ethnic. Right? Yeah, I don't go there. Stay away from Little Italy. I guess my point being, odd place to choose to set up your cryonics program, but this is
where's like a normal place to set up a cryonics program?
Well, he was originally in a place in California.
Oh yeah,
for like 3 years, and I think that there were like 400, little over 450 people currently cryonically frozen. The majority are in between Michigan and Arizona.
Can I ask you this?
So for whatever reason, that must be the place.
Maybe this is a foolish question. Cryoscientists, let me know. Do we think that maybe it's better to do your cryonics facility in the Denver suburbs, because if the power goes out, they stay good for longer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like when you leave your beer outside in Chicago.
Right. Well, like in the winter.
Yeah.
You leave it out in the summer in Chicago, and that's
not good. Yeah, you don't
like
do that.
piss warm in 30 seconds. Yeah. But no, yeah, I want to, off the top of my head, I would say it's about 8,000 feet of elevation. So it stays like, I don't think it ever gets really hot.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it makes some sense. But yeah, so Bretto, cared for by his daughter Odd and his grandson Trygve, was relocated to Netherlands. Trygve ended up being deported from the United States for overstaying his visa,
Right.
which left his mother to care for the body that she was keeping.
It is long enough ago that we still deported people from Norway.
I was going to say,
like,
yeah.
it's long enough ago that we're still like checking
those
the Norwegian visas.
Right, when we're looking for, yeah, right. Right. We're, trying to keep the Norwegians. Yeah, so Bretto was left in a shack behind a house that Odd was building. His body required, I think, like a monthly delivery of something like 2,000 pounds of dry ice.
That.
So he was just literally kept on dry ice.
Man.
Aud was eventually evicted from her house because it had no electricity or plumbing, which again, for mountain towns here, maybe not as uncommon as you would like to think. But also if she didn't have electricity or plumbing, doesn't seem like the ideal place to keep your dad's frozen corpse,
not necessarily,
right?
because you want to be able to keep that. Well, that's why they're using the dry ice instead of like a
right.
electrically powered freezing whatever with a dry ice in there as backup, maybe.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, at that point, facing eviction, Aud, AUD, is that what Aud?
AUD, yeah, Aud? I would say so. As in my experience in Norwegian, I would say Aud, yeah.
Aud?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so facing eviction, Aud let it be known that, hey, my dad's body is in the shed. You know, if I have to go, what's going to happen to him?
By the way, great way to stall your landlord in any scenario.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I have a frozen corpse.
You don't want to deal with the frozen dead guy if you don't want to deal with me. That's how I got them to finally fix my fucking lights. Fuck you, Green Street Realty Champagne.
Yeah.
I hope people listen to this show one day so they hear me say that.
You were sending them frozen squirrel corpses.
Yeah. Oh my god, fuck those people.
Cryonically preserved. Yes. Yeah, so this was I think 1995. So yeah, Aud mentioned finally, hey, you evict me. Got my frozen dead dad. What happened was the town of Netherlands passed a municipal code at that point outlawing the keeping of bodies, because that's something I guess they thought they would never have to have done. Mm-hmm. But because of the publicity, they literally grandfathered in Bretto. So he's the only frozen person that's allowed in the town of Netherlands.
So what do they, because like you have frozen dead guys, and presumably it's not like, I mean, I guess it could be, but presumably there's like some legal degree of like, you know, these cryonics places can't just like dump these bodies, right? Like, so they have to arrange a transfer, right? Like,
right. Yeah. So, you know, the city says fine. Also, you know, with the word getting out, a Denver radio station along with Tough Shed, TUFF.
Mm-hmm.
Shed, if they want to give us a sponsorship. Those are the prefab like plastic shed kits you can get at like Home Depot.
Yeah, I'd freeze a dead guy in one of I'd keep a frozen dead guy in one of those.
Yeah, so they the Denver radio station along with a Tough Shed supplier.
But before we continue,
built a new place
I just
to store
start by saying that like before this is a very sad story to start a festival from.
Yes.
Because it's a woman struggling to do everything she can with her dead grandpas, or her husband's dead grandpas, right?
Her dead father.
Her dead fathers. Yes.
The frozen guy is the grandfather.
The son brought him. The woman already lived there.
That was the grandson. The grandson brought him. His mom, the frozen guy's daughter, then came into the picture. The grandson got deported. The mom.
That's right. You did
eviction,
tell me, like, this is a fucking. This is like
it's a web.
This is so hard to keep track of. Holy shit! I feel like my grandma trying to watch any TV show. Like, I'm just sitting here like, who's that, Jason? But it does. I'm saying it's a very sad story to start a festival from.
You think so?
Yeah, so far we have a guy died. His grandson got evicted after bringing the body because we were still evicting Norwegians back then. The grandma, the mom of the grandson.
The mom.
Yeah, so your daughter can't have plumbing or electricity for yourself because you have to get however many fucking pounds. Like, what do you say, like 20,000 pounds of 2,000 pounds of dry ice or however many?
Something like that, yeah.
However many fucking pounds of dry ice sent over every goddamn week. Or ever fucking often. Like, this is a fucking nightmare of a story. I know my dad listens to the show. Dad, if you want to be cryo-frozen after you die, I'm not honoring it. Ask Jason. Brother Jason, not co-host Jason. He's not honoring it either.
Okay, I was going to say, it would be weird.
Ask co-host Jason, honestly, before you ask my older brother. He's probably not going to do it either.
No, I mean, yeah, but the grandfather, what I say his name was? Bretto, he presumably died of natural causes, that his body was frozen. Like, I think he had like a full and good life. And
he had a full and good life, and then he chose to ruin the life of his daughter and grandson in death by this insane fucking risk.
Yes,
and this is this fucking thing about this cryo freezing thing. It's like, it really is like these narcissists want to ruin their descendants financially. Like, like keep them enthralled like the family vision, like the Disneys. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
I'm not freezing you, Dad.
So yeah, this was late 90s that it sort of gained attention. Again, the Netherlands passed a law, was okay with it. The frozen body of Bretto got better accommodations, and the little town, for whatever reason, I think because people will use any reason to get drunk, they started a annual celebration in 2002 called Frozen Dead Guy Days.
Ooh.
Frozen Dead Guy Days, again, second weekend of March. There are a variety of events. It's actually kind of a big deal for, this area of Colorado. So they get some surprisingly big names, like bands that play, but it's like, music all weekend. I think when I went, I think there was like 4 venues set up. And this, I want to point out too, Netherlands, it's a town of 1,500 people.
Oh, wow.
Like, this isn't like an enormous, necessarily tourist town. Although I think in most of like the mountain areas of Colorado, pretty much every little town does get some measure of tourist traffic that kind of, helps keep them afloat. But no, this is not a big city. Like, this is a very tiny location, which we'll play into it later. In addition to music, vendors, food, their, performers, they hold coffin races where a team of 7, well, I guess it's 6, and then the 7th is in the coffin, run through an obstacle course. There's a hearse parade. There's a quote frozen dead guy look-alike contest, to look like Bretto, who's like a bald guy with a long beard.
Because I can definitely pull up off a frozen dead guy, but my beard doesn't grow long; it grows wide.
Right. Polar plunge, which are I think pretty common everywhere.
Yeah, they do that everywhere. Apparently, it's good for you.
A dance called Grandpa's Blue Ball. Pancake. I mean, it's just like a big shindig for the weekend where, like I said, this is a tiny sort of hippie-ish, funky town with a lot of, I think, like local characters that got behind this. So yeah, there'd be like fire spinners and sword swallowers and punk bands and bluegrass bands and THC infused vodka and but yeah, said a whole bunch of different competitions. The one that I did see firsthand was the frozen t-shirt competition, where a t-shirt is frozen solid, and then the goal is to be the first person to be able to put it on.
I don't think that we have the body type for that one, Jason. I don't think that contest is for us. I think my head's too big for that contest. My head is pre-Barry Bonds.
I said, I went when I went to Frozen Dead Guy Days. I don't know if this picks up on. It was in
he has a cup that says Frozen Dead Guy Days because this is an auditory medium with a picture of presumably the Frozen Dead Guy.
With a right. The event went through there in Netherlands until 2019. Where there was an estimated 25,000 visitors. Mm-hmm. So again, you're, several orders of magnitude larger than the population of the town itself. Then of course, coronavirus happened. The festival was canceled for the next few years. Finally restarted. 2023, but it has been relocated to nearby Estes Park. Estes Park, it is a decent-sized tourist town. It's 40 miles north of Netherlands, so not super close, but I guess by like Colorado scale, they're pretty close. It's a decent-sized tourist town on the eastern entrance to the Rocky Mountain National Park. So kind of has the infrastructure to handle large amounts of people. But notably in Estes Park is the Stanley Hotel. The Stanley Hotel is considered one of the most haunted locations in the United States. They really lean into that with, they offer ghost tours and it was also, the inspiration for Stephen King's The Shining.
How haunted does your hotel have to be for it to be okay to offer expired eggs at the continental breakfast? As like a bit,
I guess I can't vouch if it's okay.
You'd say like these are the haunted eggs, they're just expired. Right.
I can certainly say that most hotels I've been to have had pretty questionable breakfast offerings. I've stayed. Yes. The Stanley Hotel it's interesting. That might be like a story to do, on its own. It's named after the name Stanley comes from some dude who invented, like right after, like early, around the time when the Model T automobile was picking up. He invented a steam-powered car, the Stanley Steamer.
Oh, wait, that's where Stanley Steamer comes from?
I guess.
I know like the Stanley Steamer. Yeah, because I know that song, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a national chain, right? 1-800 Steamer. Stanley Steamer gets your home cleaner. Yep. I watched Scrub reruns when I faked sick in middle school. Yeah.
Yeah. So the hotel, I've stayed there before. I didn't see any ghosts, I'll just tell you that flat out. But it's weird that it leans into both the steam powered old timey car history and leans into the ghost history. So you have this sort of weird vibe of like, there's a sort of museum like quality to some of the floors where they have, his old cars, and then you can read about his life or whatever, whatever industrialist bullshit he was getting up to. And then, the next room over, they're talking about how spooky ghosts and all the people that have seen headless ghosts, moaning ghosts. And on top of that, because of its connection to The Shining, the hotel airs The Shining 24/7 on its own channel on the TVs in every room. So it was sort of a weird experience for me.
I mean, that's nice in and of itself. I would stay at any hotel that I'm like, I know I could watch a good movie when I'm there and I don't need to worry about it. I know that I will just need to wait for the next showing. That is in and of itself worth more than you think.
Yeah. So anyway, the newly relaunched Frozen Dead Guy Days now has been moved to Estes Park. Sort of bittersweet, if you ask me. Because I think it was more about this tiny little town and its funkiness versus. It's
like if you moved you moved the Jersey Devil outside of the Pine Barrens to another part of New Jersey. Yeah, it's still the Jersey Devil, but it's not the Jersey Devil.
Right. Right. Bretto is still in Nederland though, but the dude who owns the Stanley Hotel has been working with his family back in Norway to get him transferred to a new cryonics facility they're building specifically for him in Estes Park.
So this guy's thing is still ongoing.
Yeah. Which I guess if you're looking, at corpse preservation, Estes Park probably has more resources to be able to pull that off than Nederland.
Something to keep in mind, dead listeners.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as, the grandson and the mother, as you say as you sort of talked about, feeling sad about the story, never really on board with any of this.
Yeah, that's my problem is they are kind of forced into presumably this woman would have had plumbing and electricity her whole life if she didn't have to have all the fucking dry ice. I'm actually pretty pissed on her behalf.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong about that. But yeah, they've sued a few times to try to get it stopped, but at this point, when it was still in Nederland, they didn't really care. Yeah. The town went ahead and did it anyway. I don't know with the recent move if they're on board. It's a complicated and fascinating story. A web of intrigue and goings on. But yeah, I just thought again it's going to be in a couple weeks from now. Thought it was an interesting, weird tale. I thought it's a cool kind of small little festival celebration. I don't know. I'm curious. I really sort of dig those little towns that are the weirdly specific sort of celebrations about odd or random things, right? Like rhubarb festivals or the little things that give each town sort of its own character.
I think Frozen Dead Guys are a fun one until you know the story and the context. But yeah, I think it's a fun idea.
Yeah.
Is there a fun way to get a Frozen Dead guy? Probably not.
Right. Well, and I think
depends on how much you think about it. Mostly,
it is inherently there's a lot wrong with the story. In terms of the family's permission wasn't really sought. I don't know if the family gets a cut of any of this. I'm going to assume not. I don't know how much the town of Nederland really get. I think I read that they have like 200 hotel rooms there.
Mhm.
So, there's a point where they're not, there's a cap to how much money the town is reasonably going to get, no matter how many people show up. Yeah. And just curious, just wanted to hear listeners' thoughts if they have anything near them or anything, any kind of weird little festival that meant something to them, or just curious.
Email us underworldnewstonight@gmail.com. Let us know. So we'd love to talk about it too. I mean, we like this sort of a thing, and this almost makes me want to. You wonder if there might be some behind the scenes announcements coming soon. But this almost makes me want to think about what would happen if Underworld News Tonight went to some random local festivals and did some things. Not that I could speak to anything like that ever being talked about behind the scenes and imminently coming this year in places like Pennsylvania.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Hard to say.
Who's to say? Who knows?
Is it so, an idea so crazy it has to work, or hard to imagine.
Is it an idea so crazy it has to be genius?
I do feel like if Frozen Dead Guy Days had stayed in Netherlands, we would have a decent shot.
Yeah, it's now
of being able to have like a booth.
Yeah, it's too big now.
But now, now in Estes Park, that's a little more bougie. Yeah, there's no, now I'm sure it went from a $50 fee for the, to have a booth for the weekend to advertise your strain of marijuana, or
it's like when George Santos's cameos were exactly $100 more than I'm willing to pay for the podcast. And we had a long behind the scenes conversation between you, me, and my wife saying you cannot give that man this much money that made me not do it. But this is a really great story. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for listening, especially if you've listened for the whole duration of the show. We appreciate that. It means a lot to us that you guys come back every week. So if you like this show, remember to follow us wherever you get your podcast. You'll make sure you see us on your front page. Rate us while you can too. I think you should rate us 5 stars because that's about how I would rate me. Maybe you disagree.
Yeah.
Rate us what's right in your heart. Unless it's like 1 star, then fuck you. I will beat the shit out of you. Yeah. You guys don't see how
Preferably
jacked I am on the
stars.
podcast. Yeah. 5 stars, 4.
4 absolute minimum.
Yeah, 4 absolute minimum. Because what are you saying that we're average? Like, are you seriously going to call me average? Are you going to put me at the level of your father? I don't think so.
I guess I would understand if Aud from the Frozen Dead Guy Days story rated us 2 stars.
No, because I sided with
Aud's
give
her a bit of a pass.
Sided with what Aud has been through. I've been Aud's advocate this entire episode.
You're right. You have.
I am the advocate.
Yeah. The advocate.
I think we've had a good time, and I think that if you've had a good time, you should also remember to follow us on social media. Underworld News Tonight, wherever you like social media. That's on Facebook, we're Underworld News Tonight. On Instagram, we're Underworld News Tonight, all one word. On TikTok, we're Underworld News Tonight, all one word. And guess what? We are on YouTube, Jason.
Yeah. We're on what? Underworld News Tonight?
Yep, all one word. On Facebook, it's multiple words, because I can use multiple words on Facebook. We're not on X.
Sure.
We are on Threads, but I don't use it very often. We're not on fucking Pinterest and fucking wherever the fuck you guys are.
Truth Social.
We're not on Parler yet.
What?
Should we be on Parler?
Yeah,
maybe.
I don't know.
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't
know. Jason, do you have an Instagram that people should follow where people can find your art?
I do. It's it's Jason V Strong.
Yeah, you know what's crazy?
And
sorry, continue.
What's that?
No, you go.
No. I was going to let you plug your Instagram.
Yeah, I was going to say, the crazy thing is that I also have an Instagram at Andrew Michaels 95. You can see me post little clips of my stand-up, little pictures of my dog, sometimes random other shit. And you can also find me on TikTok at Andrew Michaels Comedy. And on YouTube at Andrew Michaels Comedy. So make sure to follow all those places for little clips of me doing comedy. Because it is fun. Jason, what would you say your big takeaway from this episode was?
Shit, now I'm drawing a blank on what the first story even was.
You know what? It's okay if you draw a blank on the first story, Jason, because you're thinking, wow, that was only like an hour and a half ago. How did I already forget the first story I talked about? The thing is, Jason, it's like, maybe it was an hour and a half, maybe it was 13 hours, maybe it was 1,300 hours, maybe it was 13,000 hours, Jason. You know why? Do you know why?
Why's that?
You motherfucker. You CIA fucking chill.
Because Frozen Dead Guy Days is in 2 weeks, so...
Yes, but also maybe Frozen Dead Guy Days is right now because... Well, maybe Frozen Dead Guy Days is tomorrow, but not right now. Because it is all Phantom Time. But right now...
Right. It's all Phantom Time.